up properly. Anyway, guys, hey, welcome to the PiG Daily, episode number 81? I don't even know. I think it's 81. We're going to do 2 dailies today, but 81. Today we're going to be talking about game number 2 and also later game number 3. We're going to split into separate VODs. I might even label them different dailies so I can pretend like I do more episodes that I actually do. But it's going to be Byun vs Dark, continuing with the Blizzcon finals. Absolutely amazing games. Yesterday we looked at game 1 where Byun on his map pick on Galactic Process kind of like just went and punched Dark in the face a few times, and Dark was like, "Ugh," and then he just kind of fell over and died, and it was like, oh, it was a little bit scary. I thought the series might be one-sided after that game, but it was, of course, the Terran map pick. Maps are very important at the highest levels. So yeah, let's dive into map number 2. It's Dark's map pick, and let's take a look at how this next one went. So it was, of course, New Gettysburg, the Zerg pick. Who would have ever thought a Zerg would pick a map with big, wide open spaces and a huge distance between you, as well as no real dead space on the edge and a bunch of nifty movement blockers just to make it 10 times more annoying for Terran to actually drop you. Yeah, I can kind of see why Zerg would pick this map. It's a good one for the Zerg. Dark loves it. Of course, Byun, I have seen him win so many TVZs on this map against Zerg. Like, just, he's Byun. He's a beast. He's the one guy who will just kind of dance his Marines around off creep for like 15 minutes straight without losing any units and somehow, you know, kill 40, 50 Zerglings and push back the creep really far, and then he'll just kind of win 1 or 2 big fights and roll them over. But that's against lesser Zergs. Against Dark here, we're going to see his life is going to be a lot more difficult. So let's bring up that production tab. Of course, it is going to be gas pool to start out. Once again, we see the same pattern from Dark, which is, I am the safest human in the world. I don't want to lose games to cheese or ridiculousness. And on this map, I actually really like the 17 gas 17 pool because he does do this one small little adjustment, which I feel had the potential to give him a really nice edge. If he was using it purely defensively here on Gettysburg, a map which is pretty bad for proxy racks, pretty bad for Reapers and proxy Reapers, because there's only one way to jump in, and it's right next to your front entrance where your defense is going to be anyway. It's not really a strong mass Reaper map. So if he was doing this without doing any aggression, I would really hate this opening from Dark. I'd say this is your classic mistake of a player playing too safe in a high pressure situation. But what we see is Dark does actually run these 2 Zerglings across the map. And what's interesting is he actually could have made a bit more of a nuisance of himself if he went straight in. So if we go back just a little bit, you can see here that because you get these 2 Zerglings out nice and early as Dark and run those around, and he spotted the Reaper coming across the map, I really would have loved for Dark to just send these Lings straight onto that command center. Because even if he's building Marines straight out of that reactor, you know, he's not going to be ready for it just yet. I think what Dark was actually doing, though, and if you go back here, is from Dark's point of view, I think Dark's waiting for the Reaper to arrive to confirm the Reaper's not just sitting out here somewhere waiting for the Zerglings, and then his Lings will go in. Because the Reaper just pokes in, sees the delayed hatchery, checks the 3rd, and then just goes home, I think Dark might actually just assume that the Reaper was sitting at home the whole time, but these Lings could have already been in there, and they could have definitely got that SCV. So, as tiny as a thing this is, these are small things which definitely do give the potential to make big differences later on. So I really would have loved to see Dark do that. Of course, part of the reason he may have left these Zerglings here is because of this. He builds 8 Zerglings really fast. Remember, this is a 17 gas, 17 pool. So he gets a super fast Zergling speed, finishing about 23 seconds earlier than a normal Zergling speed off hatch gas pool, and he just dives straight in here. Unfortunately, runs into a Hellion opening. And Hellions are just going to completely shut that down. Doesn't get any damage done. But imagine if this was just your regular kind of 2-1-1 opening, there'd only be about 4 Marines out. And 4 Marines and a Reaper, you know, they can beat those Zerglings, but they don't really have the mobility. So those Zerglings could run in, pick off an SCV or a Mule on the natural, run out. If they catch the Marines spread out or anything like that, especially if some of the Marines, say, go for an Overlord in the main, maybe catch some of the other exposed Marines. So just this cute little pressure here has the potential to get a nice edge early on, but definitely Dark missing that opportunity before to delay the natural is going to cost him. Now behind this, Dark goes for a very, very safe build, as he always does. He's got Overlord speed on the way, he kept mining gas, and then he's just pulled 2 guys off gas a bit later. You guys are kind of super nerdy like me, and you're obsessed with the exact timings of all that. Keep in mind he keeps on all 3 on gas, right up until he starts Overlord speed. And Overlord speed, yep. He's got the gas for Overlord speed, and he will be starting that up once these queens pop out. So as soon as he gets the extra 100 gas after Zergling speed, he's going to be doing that. Awesome. Alright, so beyond this point, we are going to see Dark just do his standard thing where he sees absolutely everything because he goes for the map hacks upgrade every game. This costs a lot of money to get. I really don't advise every single player to always get Overlord speed unless you really have fine-tuned reactions to everything you see. But for someone like Dark, who knows exactly how to play in every situation, it does make a lot of sense to do this. And he is, of course, just going to deny this Hellion run by. You've always got to have the Zerglings there ready to stop the Hellions if they dart past the Queens. Shuts that down. And what's really interesting here is he drops a lair instantly when he sees that Starport upgrading cloak. He knows it's going to be Banshees. He's seen a Banshee come out. He just goes for spores as well as that lair. And that's because if you're playing someone like Byun, it doesn't matter if you've got detection. The Banshee can poke in without going into spore range, kill a drone, walk away. Come in from another angle, kill a drone, walk away. So the only way you can fully shut down Banshees is having an Overseer out. And this is something where you can probably get away with never even making an Overseer if you're not playing at a crazy high level. But if you're playing against Byun, you really do not want to give him any chance for his units to hang around. Really nice transfuse there on a drone as well from Dark. As long as you're not worried about any big, Hellbat attack or some other crazy follow-up to the Banshees, probably worth saving a drone with that. And then he's going to come up here and just shut this Banshee down. The Banshee does manage to get 2 more kills, but Byun kind of paths it a bit oddly on the way back. It does go down. What's interesting is that Dark is just so obsessed with being ready for everything that Byun throws at him. And this is something which I really enjoy. Like, it's something which I think shows a sort of good mentality from Dark. And whilst you could criticize him and say he's a little bit too safe and maybe he should build his economy a little bit faster, just look at how he shuts down all this aggression. He's taking away the ability for Terran to get tempo in the game. And that's something which is very powerful. If you've ever played from the Terran side of things, you know that TVZ is a matchup where you want to constantly be applying pressure, because the moment you let up the pressure, the moment you lose map control, the creep just explodes across the map. The Zerg feels comfortable to just drone. And it's in those moments where Zerg becomes immensely powerful and seems almost imbalanced. If you ever stop attacking a Zerg, or at least keeping map presence to kind of put pressure on, keep the threat of the attack, the moment that dissipates, Zerg players just feel absolutely broken. And this is kind of this conundrum I've always felt with Legacy of the Void, where when I was first getting used to the kind of economy changes from HOTS, was like, Zerg players can seem so bad. Like Zerg as a race, like you just seem like, oh man, you can just never have enough units and enough economy if the opponent is like perfect at keeping up pressure without throwing their units away, so they can just keep that pressure going. But the moment that you kind of just shut down a pressure and snap its back, you're just like, woo, you get a minute or 2 of free time where you macro perfectly, you take a bunch of bases, you drone, and then you seem unstoppable. So Zerg very much has this explosive nature. I guess Zerg always has in StarCraft, but even more so in Legacy of the Void than in the other expansions. So this is kind of, I guess, also the weakness of Byun's style, going for those Hellions and those Banshees. It's, it's a cute way to play, but it's always going to be a little bit more committed than the flexibility of having the double Marine drop, which, gives you just so much more general maneuverability. Those Banshees, never going to be as maneuverable as that. And those Hellions as well, without having the ability to pick up. If they dive on creep, they are committed. They can get surrounded and they can go down. My voice is starting to get a bit gross. Let's clear me throat out. And I'm going to move my mic away from my mouth so you guys don't die. Apparently a stray possum climbed into my throat last night and gave birth to some fucking thing. Anyways, Alright, so let's talk about this build a bit now. So Dark here, obviously opening up gas pool, very safe opening. He's reacted with the fast lair. Other than that though, he's still just kind of droning on up. You know, he does delay his third quite a bit compared to some people's openings because he's going for the overlord speed, because he's going for the gas pool. But you'll notice that once he gets to the mid game, it seems pretty standard in that he does the Zerg thing where he's just like, I will see everything everywhere. Zerglings all over the map. He spots, you know, the third base going down. He's got a few. Baneling's actually preparing there for a drop because he loves to put on a little bit of pressure, but he's just got great map control and he's really focusing on his creep spread out towards the center of the map because that is the most important area. Taking a fourth, a macro hatch. He's going to be going for 2/2 upgrades. But what's interesting about this build is this right here. No gas on that third base. And this is an adjustment I guess we started to see a lot since the Queen change from Zergs, but especially in Dark's play, he is a player who even back in Heart of the Swarm would adjust his gas count. A lot of players would just blindly always take every gas that it's available to them. But even nowadays, with the new style of ZVT, you really don't need that much gas. Because think about it, where does that gas go? In traditional Zerg vs Terran, that gas is going towards Mutalisks. It's going towards your... It's going towards infestors, it's going towards all of that sort of stuff. There's like thousands of minerals and gas that go into those units. But with this style, you just build extra queens. Queens only cost minerals. Your queens aren't really there to help that much in the frontal fight. Like, yeah, they can help shoot down liberators, but they're mainly there to kind of shoot down drops, and then they help a huge amount once you hit hive tech with those transfusers. So they're kind of like your general early game defense, your overall anti-air, in case your opponent does some weird liberator stuff, as well as shutting down drops, and then they give you an amazing boost later on. But it only costs extra minerals, so by delaying those gases on the third, right until so late, his hive's already finished when he takes these gases, we're going to see a huge income boost here in terms of minerals. So if we look at that income tab, we can see, well, obviously we don't want to compare it to Terran income because Terran income is incredibly inconsistent based on how many mules are dropped at the same amount of time that you look at it. But you can see here he's got about 3,000 minerals a minute, a huge amount of mineral income, even though his drone count is not that crazy. So check out this drone count. He's got 12 drones on the fourth, fully mining third, fully mining natural, and a fully mining main base. So that's 4 full mineral ions, pretty much. Only a few drones missing from here. And while he does have less gas income, he's still able to get all the upgrades he needs. He can't make like 4 billion banelings, but you never want to make 4 billion banelings. You need to have a good kind of mix of zerglings to wrap around the army. The banelings are just there to force the units to kind of split, to spread, to catch any clumps of marines, allowing your zerglings to get the surface area and really do that damage. And only as he gets towards the hive, is going for that Ultralisk cavern and that sort of stuff, does he actually start adding these gases. And you'll know, yeah, he's not got the craziest amount of gas, but what does this give him? It gives him a much meatier mid-game army here, because he's got so many more minerals. He's just able to mass ling-bane in insane numbers, and really kind of just play out this in an exceptional manner. You've got to remember, it's not just the guys mining gas as well. The drones that go into the gas geysers, that equals the cost of 3 drones, because it's 2 drones that build the extractors, and then 2 extractors is another 50 minerals. So essentially you end up with a lot more money. I did a bunch of maths, but I won't bore you guys with it. Basically, it works out to 18 more zerglings a minute in terms of income, not to mention the actual cost of building something like mutas or infestors, which would also slow down zerglings. So Dark here, compared to someone going, say, Mutalisks, simply through the change up in his income ratio, is gonna end up with 18 more zerglings every minute. And that's gonna give him the ability to shut down these pushes. Remember, the Terran wants to be putting on pressure, and especially around 2-2 finishing, Byun really does want to take that big frontal fight. But what's so impressive about Dark's play is how patient he is. And I really feel like this is almost the Zerg play which people complain about, because it's like, well, you just defend and get ultras and then you win. It's bullshit. People get really angry about this style of play, but I feel like Dark gives us such a clinic here. It really is worth kind of just revering how beautiful this is. So I want us to watch from his camera view for about 2 minutes here. So check this out. From about 7 minutes 15, 7 minutes 30 in this game, you get to see Dark here play this out so damn safe. And this is something, you know, we talked about, and I definitely think it might be part of his downfall in this overall grand final series of Blizzcon. But right here, He's just doing a small baneling drop. Other than that, he's not going to contest the map at all. He's going to say, come onto creep and I'll fight you. But if you're not coming onto creep, I will not engage. I will wait for ultras, because he knows that Terran wants to get in an uncomfortable position and force the Zerg to attack into a bad spot. That's Byun's whole aim. But especially on such a big map where he's got so much creep to work with, look at this. He's setting up, he's saying, if you come deeper, I will engage you. Just going to do some small counterattacks and pokes behind. Great pickup there. But he's constantly positioning, looking for that engage on the front. And I promise you, if Byun stepped forward just a little bit more onto creep with this whole army, Dark would take these engagements. But every time, Byun pulls back right when Dark's thinking about it. So right now, Dark's going, oh, you can actually come down? No, you're going to pull back. Already immediately respreading creep on that angle. He knows that Byun can't just stay on that creep. He's going to keep respreading it. Now he's adding the gases. He's going to add the Ultralisk cabin as soon as he has the gas for it. And he's just constantly spreading his army out. You can notice every single time, he kind of boxes his army and splits it into 2 or 3 groups so that it can kind of come in from multiple angles and wrap around the Terran army. You can see him there, looking at the 4th base with his Overlord drop up there. He's thinking about sending more Zerglings up to drop. He's thinking about opening up that counterattack path because he realizes now Byun is not committing to this attack. He's like, okay, I really need to get my higher tech up. I'm just massing Zerglings and Banelings, but they get worse the longer the game goes. So he's starting to split off Zerglings to break down that depot on the south side. He's still just posturing, waiting for this engagement. And there, snap judgment call. And that was sick. Let's rewind 10 seconds. So he's sending units to counterattack. Oh, okay, he's rotating up here. Comes up here. Takes tank shots from that high ground. Immediately realizes this is such a bad angle to engage in because there is no creep up here at all. And he will be coming around this like choked up area where he would have to move his whole army around the right-hand side to come in from here. And even then, his units are going to get really clumped up around this area. They're going to take massive damage, and they're going to be attacking into Marines, just stimming and kiting off creep. He basically says, you know what? This base is going to go down. There's no point defending it, and you know what? I don't need to defend it. Ultras are such a powerful unit. Just pull the drones, pull the queens, get on out of there. And this is where we see Dark play so patiently, and I think especially on Gettysburg, this is like pretty much the way to play. Zerg just sends a huge Ling counterattack now. He says, yeah, there's no, you know, I've already lost the 4th. There's especially no reason for me to fight you now. But he never overcommits with his counterattacks as well. Takes one bad shot from a Widow Mine and just says, okay, you did a really good job of unburrowing your 2nd Widow Mine there. Let's just pull home. Gotta get guys on gas. He's already taken this extra base down here on the bottom to replace the other base which he sacrificed. He's now setting up units, getting ready for a counter attack, a big flanking engage. His first 2 ultras are almost out. Doesn't have chitinous plating yet, but just look at this. He's just so patient about waiting for this. Finally, chitinous plating begins. More ultras and more Zerglings on the way. And he knows that he's going to have a strong point in his army. The moment ultras with chitinous plating are out, all those Marines lose so much value. You know, so many of those Marines become so worthless, and there's such a low Marauder count in this army as well. So, especially because Byun committed so much to the Marines, he's got such a late Marauder tech coming in that this is like the perfect way to play, is just to be mega patient like this. Like, look at this. Finally, only now does Dark engage, because Byun here is getting antsy, man. Byun is like, I need to force him to fight, man. Otherwise, Ultras are going to come out. I got to fight sooner rather than later. And only now does Dark engage because Byun comes so deep on creep. Just this patience, waiting for a lot of these Marines to come really far forward. Those tanks get quite exposed here. They're right on the edge of creep. There's creep covering about 2/3 of this army. And only then does Dark say, okay, I'm not going to give up another base. I think I can take this fight. Has that flank pre-spread up. And remember, there was always going to be a flank. If Byun ever came deep enough to hit a base, Dark always would have had a flank ready. Except for that top base where Dark was caught a little bit unawares. And yeah, he just kind of plays that so patiently. Those Ultralisks! That's pretty awesome. What the fuck? That's fantastic. So the Ultralisks have all got their rollerblades on today, man. They're all skating around. That looks so good. But what's really cool here as well is, right, he only takes that fight because he kind of had to, and it was pre-chitinous plating and everything. But now he's got chitinous plating. A lot of Zergs would just keep massing ultras and lings and kind of keep engaging. But I really love this 3 Viper adjustment. This is something I haven't seen someone do in this matchup for a long time. And those Vipers are like fantastic for countering Liberators. They just kind of yank him out of siege mode, and your whole ground army rolls over their ground army while the Liberators are trying to siege back up. We see here, Dark comes in for the engage and then thinks better, but he realizes, wait, I don't really have any Banelings. I don't have anything that shoots up except a few Queens against multiple Liberators. And here we get to see his patience once again, where he just defends. So he's going to wait for both Vipers and Corruptors before he engages. So he always goes in for these skirmishes, but never overcommits. And because he constantly looks for those engages and dances as well, it makes it very hard for Byun to kind of constantly be pressuring him. Even though we see here these engages not very good for Dark, he's losing a few lings for free. It's better than attacking into a really bad position off creep. And really what this kind of does is I feel like it just creates an impossible situation for Terran. Because you've got to think about this from the Terran point of view. A lot of players are like, oh, I got to fight him now, I've got ultras, ugh. But it's not just ultras that are strong. You got to think about it from the Terran side. What counters ultras? You add Liberators. But, okay, add Vipers. Abduct the Liberators, and that shuts them down. Okay, so how does Terran deal with that? Well, there's 2 ways. One is Ghosts, but more importantly, it's just having more Liberators. They're not going to have that many Vipers, so, you know, they can't abduct every single one. But then what if they add Corruptors with the Vipers? Suddenly it's like, oh man, you can't really beat that just with more Liberators. Like, suddenly you need Ghosts to snipe the Corruptors, you need Ghosts to snipe to EMP the Vipers. But all of these units are so expensive and so difficult to get, and because Terran is trapped in this position of needing to constantly try and apply pressure and find trades, it's incredibly hard to get up all those answers. We see here Dark has just run away with this game, but look at this whole period here from Byun. It's like, well, okay, I've got Liberators. I really want to bait Zerg to fight me. But if he ever just shoves into the middle of creep, the Zerg army becomes 1,000 times more effective. Terran army becomes way weaker. Adding Ghosts is so far away for Byun. But that's exactly what Dark says. He says, look, if I engage with Corruptors cleaning up the air units, with Vipers also kind of making your Liberators a bit impotent, and just enough ling-bane-Ultra, there is no way this army wins unless you have like the sickest setup of Liberators, Ghosts landing snipes, beautiful pre-spreads, like insane numbers of units. And he kind of uses the fact that it's much easier to get all this tech out for Zerg. Think about it. Vipers, Corruptors, what do these things take? Once you got a Hive, all you need to do is put down a Spire, your Corruptors come out with 2 base armor, doing a decent amount of damage. You don't really need any production. Your Vipers, all you need is the gas. Even though Dark lost his 4th base earlier, he doesn't care. He knows that Zerg tech is way cheaper to get, whereas for Terran, you've got to put down that Ghost Academy, and then you've got to, you know, start building those Ghosts in place of Marauders for 200 minerals of pop, one at a time out of these Tech Lab barracks. You want to get more Liberators, you're going to need extra starports. You want to get range for Liberators, that's a huge investment, which pretty much no Korean invests in anymore. Even in TVP, you very rarely see it, simply because it just takes too long to get and it costs way too much. And this just kind of, yeah, makes things very hard for the Terran player. Terran almost always errs towards trying to engage earlier and stopping things going to the later stages of the game. Man, those Ultras, they just like stare at things and they die. So yeah, basically he just kind of rolls over. And yeah, I think this is like a style of play where if it's not such a big map with so much creep to work with, Dark might have to play this a bit differently. But playing it this way, he did exceptionally well. And he just kind of, after shutting down the early aggression, had a little bit too much room to breathe and ran away with that game. So what was really cool about this game overall, that little 8 Zergling pressure at the start, the potential to get a bit of damage done, definitely did miss an opportunity to cancel the, or kill the SCV building the natural command center though, so a bit of a mistake there from Dark. He does tech extremely hard with fast upgrades as well, so just to review the opening build order, keep in mind guys, that 3rd base gets delayed quite a bit, but the upgrades are very fast, so a few small adjustments you have to make if you're going up against Banshees, and you want to do it the way Dark does. Well, number 1, because he's going Overlord speed, his 3rd is always very late, around 3 minutes 40 when it goes down. But if you're going to go for a fast lair, your upgrades always have to be very delayed. So even though Dark goes for exceptionally fast upgrades, they're very fast upgrades considering the situation. Normally you'll see pros put down the evos, sometimes as early as 3 minutes 40. Often 4 minutes, very rarely later than 4 minutes 15, 4 minutes 30. However, in this game, we don't see those evo chambers go down till, I think they go down in the natural, is it? Where do they go down? Here we go. They don't go down till 4 minutes 50. And I know a lot of players will be like, oh, well, that's kind of late. But remember, if you're investing in a lair, if you're investing in an overseer, that's a lot of gas. You've got to build these spores as well. All this stuff slows down your economic build-up a lot, so you've got to slow down those upgrades. But keep in mind, if you still get upgrades down at like 4 minutes 50, 5 minutes, that's actually way ahead of Terran, because Terran has invested even more gas in their tech, getting Cloak, getting these multiple Banshees out. It's actually always going to delay the Evo chambers till at least 5 minutes. The third command center's only just started here for Byun. And he's going to drop his E-bays probably after second and third barracks. Yeah, there we go. So we see his upgrades always end up slightly behind Dark's this game as well. Dark in these early stages never really had a drone lead, but then the moment he killed these Hellions and the Banshee, he does run away with the game very, very fast. So those Hellions go down. Watch that worker count in that bottom area. The next Banshee just went down there as well. And now in the next minute or so, we're going to see Dark take that advantage, while also teching very fast and going for an insanely fast infestation bit. Because hey, you already had a fast lair. He's shut down the aggression so far. Why not rush up towards that hive as fast as possible? Delay the gases on the third, and yeah, you end up with this just sick build. I love the delaying the gases on the third. That's probably the most important thing to take from this as well. If you're going to play a ling-bane style, you need the fourth base, you need the macro hatch up early, you need extra queens if you want to be skipping the spire and the infestation pit and all that sort of stuff. All this stuff costs a lot of minerals. Zerglings cost extra minerals, and also having extra Zerglings is what stops Terran from being able to micro endlessly. So fantastically well played here from Dark, and a very good game. One question people do always ask about these styles where you skip spires: how do you deal with Liberators if you don't have a spire? There's a lot of players still playing ling-bane-Ultra, and I'm fine with that. I think ling-bane-Ultra is fantastic if you're not playing at the highest levels, because it gives you the ability to just shut down the map, shut down drops, and really kind of gather momentum and tempo, which is very powerful if you're not playing the absolute top players who are really good at shutting that down. But what if you're going up against Liberators and you don't have air units to shoot them down? A lot of players say this. Usually, you don't really need to care about Liberators. You just kind of roll over the army. Ling-bane are such small units that the Liberator does massive overkill each time it shoots one. It literally like chops their head off with that magnetic friggin' railgun thing that it shoots. And the Zergling head explodes into a million pieces, which looks pretty, but it's actually a waste of a shot. So during an engagement, each Liberator will kill like 4 Zerglings or something, and then they're kind of useless. Sorry, one sec, guys. There's some heavy machinery that's being switched on outside. I'll close my door in just a sec. Yeah. So generally, you don't need that. If they do push right onto creep, Spore Crawlers and Queens start to be able to shoot them down very well. With the new Queen range, you can usually just walk into Liberation Zones and just snipe them down if you've got those 5 or 6 Queens with Transfusers. Yeah, so that's cool. This was kind of disgusting as well. What I really loved about this game is we had Game 1, Galactic Process, the best Terran map. Byun just wrecked Dark. Game 2, here on Gettysburg, Dark didn't completely wreck Byun, but at the same time, Byun never really looked like he was fully in control of the game. He kind of ran around, looked for openings, got shut down a little bit, and then he constantly tried to get the fight to go and happen, and he just couldn't get the creep back in time. He was just like fighting creep. He manages to kill the 4th, pulls back, and then Dark has ultras, and you know it's kind of over from there because Dark doesn't take a bad fight, adds Vipers, adds Corruptors, gets his whole toolbook, and just kills him right at that sweet spot. So that's awesome. So thanks for hanging out, guys. I am going to be doing another episode on the next game, a very quick one, immediately after this if you're watching live. If you're on YouTube, you can go check that out as well. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Don't forget to hug a watermelon, kick a walrus, and of course, punch a watermelon to the moon. Catch you guys next time. Goodbye and good night. Did I just say watermelon twice? I think I just said